Now at 5, a woman finally sees justice served years after her sexual assault case had gone cold.
Yeah, you kind of lose faith in the justice system for sure.
Plus, amid a federal crackdown on immigration, a local group is still trying to support the most vulnerable migrants.
No one's jumped out of the sixth floor window yet, so knock on wood. It's that grave though.
And later on, we shed light on a digital scam that leaves victims at risk of a 1-2 punch by the IRS.
It makes me speechless. I just don't know what to do.
Thanks for joining us here at 5. I'm John Adams. A former loss prevention officer who was accused of raping a woman at the Rite Aid he worked at was found guilty this Friday. We spoke with that victim this weekend, years after the horrific crime occurred, to hear her reaction to finally getting justice. Our Celine Stevens is live in the newsroom with more. Celine?
John, so that man was found guilty of 5 charges this Friday, including charges of first-degree rape and sodomy. However, the woman that survived this tells us that now that she finally got to hear a guilty verdict 10 years after enduring that tragedy, she feels relief in that she can finally start to move on. A warning, some of the content in this story may be difficult to listen to.
As long as he goes to prison, that's the only thing I wanted was him to be put away.
In 2015, Marianne Stott was at a Rite Aid in Portland when she was caught shoplifting by loss prevention officer Daniel Casanelli. According to the Multnomah County District Attorney's Office, Casanelli then took Stott to the basement of the store and raped her.
For a long time, I actually tried to block that out of my mind, because I was dealing with other things. So I was coping it with a lot of drinking and pills, and that's how I dealt with my trauma.
Stott explaining back then she was already going through a hard time in her personal life.
I did things when I'm in addiction I'm not proud of, like shoplifting. I'm not going to try to hide it or deny it. I think I was just really embarrassed because I was caught stealing a soda. But at the same time, I was there a lot, and every time I went into that store, he would watch me, and I found that out later.
After she was raped, Stott says she left the store in a state of shock.
Like, oh my God, did this just happen? And so I ran right to the Max. Fortunately, it was right there, and it was leaving, so he couldn't follow me. I saw an officer transit, and I just told him what happened, and then he called the police.
The DA's office confirmed a rape kit was done in 2015, but due to a lack of sophisticated analysis, there was no smoking gun tying Casanelli to the incident. Eventually, the DA's office says Stott separated from the case and it went cold. But in 2021, more money from the state became available to test untested rape kits and provided money to police to reach out to victims whose cases were never resolved.
For a long time, I thought it was just never going to be brought up again.
In October of that year, Stott's case was picked back up.
At first, I was shocked, and then I was like, I felt like, someone actually believed me, because I thought before they were just looking at me as another criminal.
In 2022, Casanelli was arrested, but was then released on bail. In 2024, newer, more sophisticated analysis was done on the rape kit, and partial DNA was found, suggesting involvement from Casanelli. But finally on Friday, April 11th, he was found guilty of first-degree rape, 2 counts of first-degree sodomy, and 2 counts of second-degree sex abuse, and taken to jail.
When I first heard guilty, you can hear me. I let out a huge, yes, or relief. And I was like, thank you, God.
Stott says she has PTSD and will be in therapy for a while, but advises other victims of crimes like this to learn to love themselves again and stop blaming themselves for what happened.
I know it's hard sometimes and you want to and just want it to go away. I would tell them just not to give up, that there are people out there who are trying to solve it.
Casanelli will be sentenced on July 11th, and according to the DA's office, he will face a mandatory minimum of 100 months in prison. John?
All right, our Celine Stevens tonight. Celine, thank you so much for bringing us that reporting. We continue to track the search and rescue efforts in Clackamas County to find a missing kayaker. This morning, the Coast Guard found the kayak but have yet to find the kayaker. The search started just before 11 last night when witnesses reported seeing the man in distress before he fell over the edge of Willamette Falls. He did not resurface. Search and rescue volunteers continued their search this afternoon. At this time, officials are not disclosing that man's name. Also new tonight, police in Hood River arrest 2 people in connection with a theft that turned deadly. Police say 38-year-old Stephen Hayes was hit by a car on Friday while trying to stop 2 people who were stealing from his vehicle. Yesterday, officers arrested and booked William Hardy and Elizabeth Bowman on charges including theft and manslaughter. The investigation continues. A Southwest Portland community has stepped up to help a local farmers market after its truck that stored many essential supplies was stolen in late March. The truck for Hillsdale Farmers Market has since been recovered, but it sustained significant damage and critical equipment is still missing. But thanks to community support, the market has now raised 90% of its $15,000 fundraising goal. Market manager Lacey Walden tells us they've also gotten offers to borrow equipment from other area businesses and have received constant words of encouragement. This morning, Walden explained her shock when she realized the truck had been taken.
I was just dumbfounded. I pulled into the parking spot where the truck should be, and I just sat there literally and just, what do I do?
A Portland police spokesperson tells us the truck was recovered on March 24th, the day after it was stolen. Investigators believe that it may be possible the truck was used to commit crimes in that time period it was missing. The market starts its weekly season on April 27th. Oregon's U.S. senators are stepping up support for migrant children who cross into the U.S. without parents or guardians as the Trump administration cracks down on immigration and funding for groups that support migrants. The Trump administration terminated funding last month for nonprofits that provide legal help for unaccompanied migrant children. In an effort to bring that back, Senators Ron Wyden and Jeff Merkley and 24 of their Democratic colleagues reintroduced legislation to help provide them legal aid. Immigration Counseling Services of Portland is one of the groups which lost funding and is now desperate for community donations and help from lawmakers so it can keep helping kids.
Some of them as young as 3 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old. So some of them have been, brought up with a family member and left at the border. Others just ventured on their own because there was no family unit in the house that they were in and they feared for their life. They're coming from very unsettled situations that have changed overnight, and they have really no sense of rapport with anybody, just bureaucracy and systems.
The U.S. Unaccompanied Children's Program currently represents about 26,000 minors. Senators Merkley and Wyden say the proposed Fair Day in Court for Kids Act will prevent migrant children from having to represent themselves in court. Well, it may have been a chilly and frosty start to the day, but take a look at our live look from our Wells Fargo sky cam. Sunny and gorgeous out there. Meteorologist Joe Ranieri is joining us from outside here in Southwest Portland. Now, Joe, you said yesterday this would be one of the best forecasts we've seen in the spring over the next few days. Is that still holding true?
I'm a man of my word, and that's absolutely true. We're live here on the KGW weather deck, sponsored by Rick's Custom Fencing and Decking. And I think a lot of people are returning back to work tomorrow with a little bit of a sunburn. I know I'm guilty of that. I put some sunscreen on before I went to my son's football game, and then I realized there's a little pink above the forehead. It's because at this time of year, I never can pay attention to my ever receding hairline, so I need to go up a little higher when I apply that sunscreen as we go into the warmer time of the months. But I tell you what, we're going to be seeing some of the best conditions we've seen in a long time. And again, I told you last night, we could be looking at probably the best forecast so far this spring, if not this year. And I think that's fair to say. We're going to be looking at temperatures tomorrow morning right around the upper 40s. If we go to the day planner real quick, this is showing you what's going to be looking like tomorrow. By midday, John, we're at 67 degrees, flirting with record-breaking temperatures. Now, the high tomorrow, I'm going with 78. The record is 82, set back in 1943. But look at some of these temperatures right now on your Sunday night. We're looking at right around the upper 60s, a few locations close to 70 degrees, and up and down the Oregon coastline, yeah, you're looking at really nice, pleasant conditions with temperatures in the low 60s. By tomorrow, some places along the coast are going to be right around the upper 60s to low 70s. So we'll be about nearly 10 degrees warmer inland compared to the beach. So as we look at futurecasts, we'll put this into motion. Throughout tomorrow morning, we're not going to be seeing much in terms of cloud cover. It's going to be pretty much high and dry, not just tomorrow, but over the next 5 or so days. I think there is a little hiccup in the forecast going into next weekend, but again, I'll get to that in a little bit in your detailed forecast. But jumping ahead into Tuesday, again, more of the same. Just a lot of sunshine as this ridge of high pressure continues to develop. It's going to be parked out over the Pacific Northwest much of the week. It's basically a Rex block, so don't expect to see any major changes. Yeah, there's clouds out there, but that big ridge of high pressure is going to be holding strong over the next few days. And over the next 6 hours, temperatures are going to be very pleasant, right around the upper 60s. As we go into about 9, 10 o'clock tonight, we'll be looking at right around the upper 50s to low 50s for your overnight low. So very mild compared to what we woke up to earlier this morning. A lot of locations were right around just above that freezing mark with some areas of frost. But again, once you see that 7-day forecast coming up about 10 minutes, you are going to be very, very pleased. Just make sure you grab the sunscreen if you're going to be out and about, John.
All right, Joe, thank you. We'll look forward to that 7-day. And big news from the Trailblazers leadership today. General Manager Joe Cronin announced that head coach Chauncey Billups has signed a multi-year extension. The terms of that deal have not yet been disclosed per team policy. Billups has been with the team going on 4 years now. The most recent season, he saw his highest win total thus far and managed to coach the Blazers to the NBA's third best defensive rating. During a media briefing today, Cronin spoke on the challenges of a rebuilding team and seeing that mid-season turnaround.
And when we started taking those steps, it was, I don't think it was anything that surprised us. We just didn't know exactly when that was going to happen. When those guys, started playing the level of defense that we expected, when they, started to be more and more connected, when, we started winning ball games and being really competitive on a nightly basis, that changed everything for us. And we're really proud of, what's happened this second half of the season.
In the season finale today, the Blazers took on the LA Lakers and they took home the win. A final score there, 109-81 from Moda Center. They end the season with 36 wins and 46 losses.